continuing the reactions to XG's international tour, which they did in 2024. We will react to the three main singers, which are Chisa, Hinata, and Juria. Although I wanted to react to the rappers, the problem is that I don't have the slightest competence to evaluate rap, even though I grew up listening to hip-hop and American rap like Tupac and Shaquille O'Neal in the early 90s. That was purely personal taste, so I don't have the slightest competence to evaluate it, to say what was right or wrong. Them singing with the whole group, we can analyze that, but when it's just the rappers performing solo, I can't contribute much, unless I talk a little about their vocal timbres, some vocal characteristics, like I did in the Christmas videos, where I talked a little about that. But here, let's see how the three girls delivered the piece Losing You. They have an official version, a cover, recorded on their channel, a music video, but let's see how they performed it live.
Dishes in the sink, I ain't have no time to think. I don't even ask you where you been. I know you're with some other chick. All these broken promises, you don't know how loyal it is. I'm so done with this, you're only giving 10%.
This vibrato is unbelievable in the low register that Juria does. I've never seen a singer with such mastery of this, except for American gospel singers. What she does here is beautiful. At the end of a phrase, on a note where you wouldn't expect her to do that, she adds it. Check out my previous analysis of her, it's unbelievable. And her low notes are quite powerful, even though she's not a contralto. I think she's a mezzo-soprano, but she could even be a soprano. But her low notes are of extremely high quality, and here she already shows that, even though there is some playback behind, providing support. But her voice is at the forefront of it.
All these broken promises, you don't know how loyal it is. I'm so done with this, you're only giving 10%. Always let you up and never let you down. That's the reason you are keeping me around. I couldn't see myself without you, but look now. I tapped out and tapped out.
Hinata grows alongside them. That's what I said in my analysis of her. What I believe is that she has a certain shyness, and this aspect of her personality ends up having some influence on her stage performance and the songs she chooses. She has immense potential, with a technique just as strong as the other girls, but she still holds back a little. It's difficult, extremely difficult, to perform solo in front of that crowd, live. Doing that on tour is very tough. So we noticed this difference, compared to Chisa and Juria. But here, she grew. She did. This entire melodic section she just did, where she went from a low note to a super high note. She transitioned from chest voice to head voice, and then into falsetto. Everything was very smooth and clearly audible. She did it with delicacy and control over volume, which doesn't always happen in her solo performances. This transition to the final note is hard to execute, because she goes into falsetto up here, and then she moves into her chest voice, which is low for Chisa. That's a difficult shift. She slightly moves the mic away, exactly because she's coming back with power. There's no way around it. I've seen some clips of her singing this too, Informally, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was in a studio or at the company she was rehearsing. I've watched her practice this transition several times, shifting from falsetto into chest voice. And there's no way to make that shift completely seamless. It will always stand out. Falsetto naturally has a breathier quality, meaning you hear more air and lower volume. And when shifting to chest voice, you have to control it so it doesn't come out too strong. That's why she moves the mic away slightly to soften the impact, but she executed it beautifully.
It's the first time I finally feel at home. Losing you is giving me everything I need. I'm happy that you're gone for the first.
Her melisma was also very precise, very characteristic of the 90s and early 2000s American pop style. Their vocal training is clearly focused on pop. For example, what Baby Monster has as on R&B and jazz influence. XG has an American pop. So there's always a strong brightness in the high notes, a lot of volume using belting, powerful high notes, very well executed high registers, and even a bit of aggression. In lower notes, there's a lot of volume and a lot of vibrato too. Meanwhile, in R&B and jazz, the voice tends to be more closed, with many smooth transitions, handled more subtly, with less volume. It's more spoken and fluid, and not as forceful as American pop. Forceful in a manner of speaking. So this is the style they follow. Different schools of technique, after all. Americans dominate them all, and these girls, they execute it masterfully. Here, she performs a melisma on a single syllable.
Go.
She runs through a sequence of notes. Melisma, or flourish. We know it like this here in Brazil. It's complicated to do that. She does it, and she's in a mid-range here, but heading towards the low notes. The low note was good. Chisa's low notes don't have as much volume as Juria's, but they fit well, and a vibrato as well, just as characteristic of Chisa, not as pronounced. But you can tell it's from the same vocal school. She goes into falsetto and back to head voice. Perfect. So, Hinata is in a mid to low range. She's moving, focused on interpretation, but executed it well. She seems more comfortable when next to the girls. That's very noticeable. The quality of Chisa's low notes during this register transition from falsetto to chest voice is outstanding. She does it really well. I think Juria does it even better than Chisa when it comes to low notes. But this part is very difficult. This song also has a playback accompaniment. The backing track is necessary due to the entire style of 80s, 90s, and 2000s pop. But In this case, it's needed, so she can confidently make these register shifts without risking any mistakes. That could impact the song, but that wasn't the case here. She's executing all the transitions very well. She nailed this one. There was a bit of breathiness because it's really low, but she's coming from up high, descending, and landing in the mid-range. Very good. And then, in the chorus, you can clearly hear the difference in the timbres of the three girls, with Hinata's voice sounding softer. She is definitely singing in falsetto. Chisa also uses falsetto, but she maintains a bit more volume. And with Juria, I have my doubts whether she's in head voice or leaning into falsetto, because that characteristic brightness from her metallic tone is very present, and she had a lot more volume too. These jumps, of course, are required by the melody itself, because of the interpretation of the lyrics, which talk about loss and lamentation. And it is a lament, a kind of cry, but somewhat sweet. So, these very frequent register shifts fit really well. You move from one octave to another, up here, and inevitably, you have to change registers. So, it is very demanding, but it aligns with what the interpretation, the idea behind the lyrics of this song, wants to express. She also has that crying quality in her melismas. So it makes a lot of sense. The singer really has to find a way to pull this off.
So much better. I don't need you, I'm good by myself. Gave you heaven, now it's gone.
Here, Chisa imposes her voice. She placed a very beautiful low note. Gave you heaven now. I think that's what she said. It's the same note that Juria sang before. Juria's was softer this time, while hers had a lot of volume. It's interesting how, depending on the moment, your position, how you want to place it, which syllable you're singing, where you're coming from in terms of register, you shape the voice differently. She did really well here. Juria, this song is complex, melodically, and technically demanding. It's really difficult to sing. but they are delivering very well. Now you can see the conversation between the voices. It's really difficult because she moves out of this register, where you have to use head voice or falsetto, and they are using falsetto due to vocal limitations, and they have to keep making all these transitions. On top of that, there's the interplay, where one sings part of the melody, then the other. Complicated. Only now at the end did I understand what's happening with Juria. What's happening? There are three. We know this, and watch my first video where I talked about Juria. But Juria has a lot of volume and vocal power. And here you can tell she's singing with less volume. And what's happening? I have this issue too. I tend to sing with a lot of volume, even if I'm in a group, in a quartet. It's a flaw of mine. A flaw in quotes. Of course, when you're in a quartet, singing a cappella, you need to lower your volume so you don't stand out, since there has to be a balance between the voices. So, now at the end, Chisa and Juria got carried away. She started putting more voice into it. They were doing melismas, in the mid to low range. And now you can tell that at one moment, 2 or 3 very brief moments, Juria increased, and Chisa did too, and it all got muddled. And then they pulled back, someone eased off there, and I think it was Juria, but then Chisa pulled back too, and they returned to normal. Because their normal is singing with full vocal power. But here, there are some challenges to that. Hinata sings with a lower volume, while the other two have massive power that they need to control. And then there's the playback. They also need to stay balanced with it. So at the end, it became really noticeable. I'll replay this part so we can listen. Juria went in strong, Chisa followed, the sound got messy, then one pulled back, and then the other did too. Chisa in falsetto. I think it's now. Now. Yes. Juria went up, and Chisa did too. They really do have this vocal dialogue, but one came into strong. I think Juria came in big first, and Chisa followed on impulse. It got messy, but they quickly adjusted. In fact, Juria went beyond the playback. She really put her voice out there. So it got messy. There's this urge to let the voice out more, because it's in the mid-range, and she's at the peak, coming down from the song's climax. But it's the kind of climax that leads to the song's ending. So that's what happened. Chisa moves the microphone away. And here at the end, their lower range sounds really beautiful too. So this is what they delivered, and they did it really well. It's very difficult to pull off. They even chose to have a slightly more present playback, because this playback also helps them hold back their vocal volume a little, especially Chisa and Juria. Because we know. Watch the other reactions I've done of both of them. Their voices are powerful, very powerful, highly projected, with a lot of volume. This is a song that, despite those super high notes, where they switch to falsetto, when they come back to the mid and lower ranges, a massive volume comes through. So they hold back because of Hinata, and also because of the overall mood of the song, which demands it as well. It's a lament, so it can't be a song that's too big or aggressive, with too much brightness. They brought that brightness in at the end, but in a very controlled way. So I think it was very well balanced, even alongside the backing track that accompanied them. Right? So, if you enjoyed this analysis, leave your like and comment below. And subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Consider buying me a coffee by clicking the super thanks button below, or through PayPal in the first comment. Any amount helps. If you want to watch this video with the original image and original audio, check out my Patreon below. Okay, see you next time.